Chapter 1 The Second Survivor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lin Zhen's eyes snapped open, and he sucked in a harsh breath. Where am I? The thought was immediately followed by a wave of fear. He couldn't move. Not even his fingers. It was like he was a corpse, only capable of ragged breathing. Then, a voice, flat and emotionless, echoed beside him, "Return mission, Dawn. You may return upon completion." Lin Zhen was floored. What was that supposed to mean? Return mission? Dawn. What the heck was going on? He heard footsteps approaching. "Help me," he tried to shout, but his throat was frozen and something, a white sheet, maybe, was covering his eyes. No, it was covering his whole body, head to toe, as he lay there, completely covering his head. Huh? A soft murmur came from the direction of the footsteps, then, a figure appeared and lifted the white sheet. Relief washed over Lin Zhen. He was saved. He looked up at the figure and froze. Kakashi. The silver hair, the black mask, Lin Zhen couldn't be mistaken. It was Hatake Kakashi, straight out of the anime, who was standing over him. Kakashi, looking down at Lin Zhen, called out, "Medical team. We've got a survivor here." A flurry of footsteps approached, and several people in medical uniforms swarmed around Lin Zhen. Impossible. I checked him. No vital signs. Maybe he was in some kind of suspended animation. That's rare. They spoke quietly as they helped Lin Zhen sit up and began examining him. As he sat up, Lin Zhen's vision cleared. He was in a huge morgue. Hundreds of coffins were lined up, each containing a corpse covered in a white sheet. Medical staff were bustling around, some even held glass jars containing pairs of eyeballs. His body felt numb, and though Lin Zhen was terrified, his face remained blank, his eyes glazed over. Kakashi, in his umbu gear, watched Lin Zhen's vacant expression. And asked the medical ninja, "How is he?" "His vitals are stabilizing, but his mind seems..." The ninja shook his head and sighed. Kakashi looked at Lin Zhen, his expression unreadable. "Get him to the hospital. I'll report to Lord Hokage." At the hospital, Lin Zhen lay in bed, still unresponsive, but he could feel his body slowly returning to life. His fingers twitched, a small sign of progress. At the same time, fragmented images flickered through his mind. Shinji Uchiha. From the swirling chaos in his head and the scene in the morgue, his situation began to come into focus. He was in the body of an 8-year-old boy named Uchiha Shinji, and it was the night of the Uchiha clan massacre. How he'd gone from a good night's sleep to inside a corpse in the Naruto world, he didn't know, but the real Shinji Uchiha was dead, cut down by Itachi's sword. What was that voice earlier? The strange voice he'd heard in the morgue was still bothering him. He was a mess, absorbing Shinji Uchiha's memories, the shock of time travel, the uncertainty about the future, the panic of the unknown. It was all too much to process. He gasped. He'd just absorbed Uchiha Shinji's last memory. The moment Itachi's sword fell, perhaps due to fear, the image was distorted. Everything was blurry except for Itachi's cold, scarlet Sharingan. It felt like I was actually stabbed. Lin Zhen's back was drenched in cold sweat. Even just merging with Shinji Uchiha's memory fragments had been a traumatic experience. Before he could recover, his vision blurred again, his dark eyes turned red, and Tomo appeared, forming the 3-Tomo Sharingan, but it didn't stop there. The Tomo swirled, an ink-like pattern spread, morphing into 3 interlocking circles. Then, as quickly as it began, the change was over. The circles vanished, the red faded, and his eyes were ordinary black again. The Mangekyo Sharingan. Lin Zhen was stunned. The transformation had been brief, but he knew it wasn't a hallucination. He'd awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan, the legendary power of the Uchiha clan. Shinji Uchiha's intense emotions before death had triggered the Sharingan, but he died too quickly, awakening only the 3-Tomo form. Then Lin Zhen had arrived, his new soul completing the process and unlocking the Mangekyo. This kid was a genius. Lin Zhen was amazed. Intense emotions like despair, hatred, and love could awaken the Sharingan, he knew, but Shinji Uchiha had awakened the 3-Tomo in the moment of his death and even touched the Mangekyo. That was incredible. the last person to reach that level was Uchiha Obito, the architect of the Fourth Great Ninja War. Even Sasuke, under Itachi's manipulation, only awakened the single Tomo after witnessing his parents' death in Tsukimi. Shinji Uchiha, who'd left no mark on the original timeline, was a rare talent with the potential to unlock the Mangekyo. Am I Shinji Uchiha now? Lin Jin felt a pang of disappointment. He'd taken Shinji Uchiha's body and memories. He'd probably have to live as Shinji Uchiha from now on. Plane invasion detected. Countdown, 9. The mysterious voice returned. New book upload. Please support. Chapter 2 Countdown. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Invasion. Lin Zhen, or Uchiha Shinji, looked totally lost, bandaged up and stuck in bed. He was already feeling pretty down when a voice dropped a bomb. The plane was being invaded. And there was a countdown timer ticking away. After a long pause, nothing else came. Shinji mentally yelled, "Hey, what invasion? You gotta explain." Still no answer. It was like the whole thing was just some kind of auditory hallucination. He was beyond speechless, especially since he could barely move. Shinji spent the next few days in a daze, mainly because he was so banged up. Itachi's knife wound had gone deep, practically scraping bone, and messed up his lungs. Even with ninja healing, it was going to take time to bounce back, and that mysterious voice kept popping up, counting down. He realized that it wasn't just in his head. This was real. No doubt about it. That just made him even more bummed out as the days went by. The impact of the Uchiha clan's wipeout, Konoha's top family, started to sink in. Shinji noticed everyone treated him with pity. Most people in Konoha didn't actually hate the Uchiha that much. They were mostly annoyed by their arrogance and spooked by those Sharingan eyes. With the Uchiha gone, those everyday squabbles vanished. Now, it was all sighs and sympathy. After all, the Uchiha had fought for Konoha in countless wars and paid a heavy price. While he was recovering, Shinji tried to adjust to everything. At first, he was terrified his time traveler secret would get out, or someone would try to finish off the last Uchiha. But after a few days, things were calm, at least in the hospital. Everyone was nice to him. Thud. Shinji hit the floor hard. A nurse rushed over, looking worried. You're pushing it. You need more rest before trying again. Fighting the pain, Shinji said. The doctor said I'm almost healed and can start moving around. The nurse started to argue, but I got this. Shinji refused her help. He took a deep breath and took another step. It was hard, but he gritted his teeth and kept going. Between the countdown and being the last Uchiha standing after that massacre, he couldn't afford to slack off. Thud. He fell again, got back up, over and over. The nurse had to look away. After an afternoon of work, Shinji was barely able to walk. The nurse was surprised he'd kept at it. Incredible, Shinji said. I need to use the restroom. The nurse smiled. Let me help you. I'm good. Shinji went alone, checked the bathroom was empty, then went to a stall in the corner, locked the door, sat down, and covered his eyes with his hands. Kaleidoscope Sharingan, activate. As he focused, his pupils changed. Scarlet swirls, ink-black circles, appeared. His vision sharpened, and he could see the lines on his hand. Is this the Kaleidoscope Sharingan? He was surprised and thrilled. He'd been holding back for days, worried about showing off the eyes in the hospital. Now that he had proof, he felt a surge of excitement. On the way back to the ward, he saw another survivor, Sasuke Uchiha. That guy was still out cold from the Tsukimi, and it looked like he'd be sleeping for a while. Shinji spent the next few days focused on getting back on his feet. At first, he could barely walk, but he kept at it, and soon he was jogging and jumping, and that mysterious voice popping up every day kept adding fuel to the fire. He still had no clue what this invasion was all about, but he had to be ready. A week after getting admitted, the doctor checked him over, amazed. You're healing way faster than we thought. Shinji replied, thank you. The doctor shook his head. Our medical ninjutsu can only do so much. Your recovery is down to your hard work. Shinji clenched his fist, feeling his strength return. His efforts hadn't been for nothing. With the medical treatment, his body was almost good as new. After a few words of advice, the doctor left. Another figure walked in and asked Shinji with a smile, how are you feeling today? Shinji nodded, his expression dull. Much better. It was his ninja academy teacher, Mizuki, a young man with light blue hair and a cheerful smile, but Shinji knew Mizuki was also Orochimaru's spy in Konoha. Mizuki sized Shinji up. You're pretty much healed. You can leave today. Shinji nodded. After sorting out the paperwork, Mizuki led Shinji to an apartment building. He unlocked an apartment on the 3rd floor and handed the key to Shinji. This will be your new home. Shinji looked around and took the key silently. Mizuki gave Shinji a bankbook, told him a few basic things, and then left with a smile. Shinji closed the door carefully, his face now showing more emotion. The bankbook Mizuki gave him held his survivor's pension from the village, over 700 million, a tidy sum. He put away the bankbook and looked out the window. The apartment was small, but it was in the heart of the village, near the ninja academy, and the area was bustling. Obviously, Shinji and the comatose Sasuke couldn't hold on to the Uchiha estate, so, he wasn't surprised the village put him here. As for the huge pension, it probably included compensation for the village taking over the clan land. Thinking back to the morgue, the accumulated wealth of the Uchiha over 1,000 years, and the Sharingan of all the dead, were probably in the village's hands now. In that light, 700 million wasn't much. Night fell, lanterns and neon lights lit up the village streets. The warm light seemed to chase away the cold. Back in the apartment, Shinji quietly watched Konoha at night, but he was thinking about his neighbor. Noises from next door had him a little on edge, worried someone was watching him, but he quickly shook it off. If someone was spying, they wouldn't make so much noise. I wonder who lives next door. That he lay down on the bed, thinking about the future. He still had no idea why he'd been transported here, and the mysterious voices return mission and invasion were confusing. He tried to call out to the voice, but it was like it only existed in his head. I gotta focus on surviving first. He had a pair of Kaleidoscope Sharingan now, which was a trump card. With the Uchiha gone, not many people would openly want to hurt him, except for Danzo, who orchestrated the wipeout, Orochimaru, who craved the Sharingan, Itachi, who tried to kill him, Obito, who helped with the massacre, and other villages and groups interested in Uchiha bloodlines. Okay, so there were still a lot of threats. Staying in the village is safer than running around. That was easy enough to understand. He was a survivor of the Uchiha massacre. As long as the 3rd Hokage had any sense of honor, and Konoha still cared about the will of fire, no one would openly attack him. But he wasn't protected by Itachi like Sasuke was. If he went too far, Danzo would jump at the chance to stomp him, the Uchiha remnant, into the ground. Like how he could feel eyes on him these days. Just gotta hang in there, he told himself. The plane is invaded. Countdown, 2, the mysterious voice spoke again. His face darkened. The countdown had gone from 9 a week ago to 2 now, meaning each number was a day. Countdown 2 meant only 2 days left. End of this chapter. Chapter 3, The Person Who Shouldn't Appear. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After washing up, Shinji arrived at the ninja school early. Stepping into the classroom, he froze. Dozens of people filled the room. He didn't recognize most of them, but among the familiar faces, 2 definitely shouldn't be there. Suppressing his confusion, he found his seat. Relying on the original owner's memories, he immediately felt the sympathetic and concerned glances from around the room. Everyone knew about the Uchiha clan's tragedy. The Uchiha, once Konoha's most powerful family, had been wiped out overnight by their own young leader. Only 2 children survived. The event had sent shockwaves through the entire village. Shinji, already used to the stares, kept quiet. He subtly scanned the little red-haired girl in the front row near the podium, and the black-haired boy in the front row. What the heck? He was bewildered. If he wasn't mistaken, the red-haired girl was Karen, with Uzumaki blood, and the black-haired boy looked a lot like Haku from Kirigakure. How did they both end up at Konoha's ninja school? Shinji searched the original owner's memories, but found nothing. The original owner clearly hadn't cared about Karen or Haku, typical Uchiha. He then turned his attention to the boy with white eyes on the other side of the classroom, Yuganiji. The only person the original owner cared about, and his self-proclaimed rival. Before he knew it, morning classes were over. The proud Uchiha hadn't been close to his classmates, and Shinji's indifferent attitude didn't help. Nobody tried to talk to him all morning. Shinji welcomed the peace and quiet. He didn't really want to interact with anyone, afraid of giving himself away. Want to eat lunch together, if you don't mind? A voice startled Shinji from his thoughts. Looking up, he saw the boy he suspected was Haku holding out a lunchbox. Seeing Shinji's puzzled expression, the boy explained, "You forgot your bento." Shinji realized he was supposed to bring his own lunch, but he played it cool and asked, "Your name is?" Unfazed that Shinji didn't remember him, the boy said, "I'm Haku." It is him. Shinji's heart skipped a beat. Ninja school was deeper than he thought. The ninja school curriculum at this stage was simple: basic survival skills, tracking, and identifying herbs that ninjas needed to know. The more advanced lessons covered the principles of chakra refinement. They hadn't even touched on using chakra for ninjutsu or genjutsu. Then there was physical fitness, mostly gymnastics, sparring and shuriken practice. After lunch, students trickled out to the playground, some playing tag, others sparring. Naruto, Shikamaru, Choji, Kiba. Shinji recognized more familiar faces, but Naruto was a grade below him, and they didn't really interact. He focused on his own grade. Niji, looking intense, wasn't practicing with anyone. He was in the corner, practicing the Hyuga clan's gentle fist against a wooden stake. Watching for a bit, Shinji's expression turned serious. Niji was only 8, like him, but his taijutsu already looked incredible. The original owner had been no match for Niji, losing badly in every spar, and Shinji. Forget about it, these kids in the ninja world were something else. At 7 or 8 years old, they moved with agility, their attacks and defenses fluid and natural. Like miniature martial arts masters. This is 8 years old. He thought his Mangekyo Sharingan meant he could look down on these ninja school kids, but after observing them, even without using his Sharingan, he realized he might not be able to beat the random extras in his class, let alone someone like Niji, who had earned the title of genius. If my foundation is this weak, even with the Mangekyo Sharingan, I won't be able to use even 10% of its power. Bloodline abilities were only as good as the user. Besides, the Mangekyo Sharingan was a consumable. He couldn't waste it. He also realized something else. Mangekyo Sharingan aside, he was weaker than the original owner. The original owner, a pure-blooded Uchiha, was second only to Niji in their grade. Shinji guessed he was now near the bottom. If he didn't close that gap, he'd raise suspicion. Ugh, I'm terrible at fighting. He knew the problem, but that didn't mean he could fix it. Just then, Haku walked up to him, looking hopeful. Shinji, can we practice gymnastics together? Shinji, not wanting to look weak, reluctantly shook his head. You're too weak. Haku quickly apologized. Sorry. I shouldn't have asked. Seeing Haku's sincere apology, Shinji felt a bit bad. He knew something was up with Haku being in Konoha's ninja school, that there was some kind of scheme at play, but he had to admit Haku was thoughtful and easy to get along with. That evening, ninja school was over. Shinji walked toward his apartment, mulling over everything that had happened. He realized Haku was going the same way. After chatting, he said in surprise, "You live next door to me?" Haku nodded. "Please take care of me, Shinji." "Right." Shinji nodded. At home, Shinji collapsed on his bed, letting his thoughts drift. Haku and Karen being in Konoha's ninja school, as his classmates. It was unsettling. Butterfly effect? Or parallel timelines? He shook his head, pushing the thoughts aside, and instinctively touched his chest. The deep knife wound was completely gone, thanks to medical ninjutsu, but he still remembered the moment of death from the original owner's memories. That dying experience was rough. The plane is invaded. Countdown, 1. Please be prepared, we will meet the invasion after 12 o'clock tonight. Shinji shot up and looked at the clock on the wall. It was 8:15 p.m. Less than 4 hours until midnight. New book release. Please vote for recommendations and monthly tickets. Thank you. Chapter 4 Heaven. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Came to the window and looked out at Konoha under the night sky. Shinji mentally reviewed the village layout one more time. He'd spent days analyzing the possibilities of an invasion and brainstorming countermeasures. He'd memorized Konoha's layout, pinpointing key locations like the Hokage building, the Umbu headquarters, and the hospitals. If an invasion actually happened, he could react instantly. After all, this was Konoha, and the village wouldn't stand idly by. He could use that to his advantage. Secondly, he'd spent the last 2 days, while he was alone, getting used to activating his Mangekyo Sharingan and exploring how to use it efficiently, without burning through too much chakra. Having this pair of eyes gave him a little more confidence. Finally, for insurance, he'd bought a bunch of ninja tools, 20 shuriken, for high-quality kunai, and 30 explosive tags, all packed in his ninja pouch. Whether they'd be useful or not, it was always better to be prepared. Time ticked by. Click star. The hour hand finally struck 12. Shinji, kunai in hand, scanned his surroundings, looking for any sign of an invasion, but nothing happened. A few minutes later, he frowned. Could this be a prank? Before he could finish the thought, he vanished from the room with a swoosh. Boom. 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 Shinji found himself in a strange palace, the sound of explosions echoing all around. He crouched low, went to the window, and peered out. In the courtyard, hundreds of guards armed with bows and swords were surrounding a giant monster. It was dark blue, bloated, and covered in arms. Stop it. Protect His Highness. Don't let it near the main hall. The guards cried out as they attacked the monster. Arrows flew like rain, some tipped with lit explosive tags, but these attacks barely slowed the monster down. Its body was riddled with arrows, but it didn't seem to care. Limbs blown off by the explosive tags regenerated before his very eyes. Clearly, normal attacks were useless. The monster's countless arms lashed out, grabbing guards and dragging them forward. Then, it swallowed them whole. Isn't that a hand demon? Shinji, hiding in a side hall, recognized the monster immediately. It was the hand demon from Demon Slayer, the one that had devoured a dozen of Tanjiro's senior students in the proving ground. But this hand demon was much bigger than he remembered. It was bloated, and it reeked of something awful. The courtyard was quickly filled with the stench of blood, littered with body parts, like a scene straight out of hell. Wait a minute. Despite his fear, Shinji noticed something. As the hand demon devoured the guards, it grew larger and stronger, its attacks faster and more powerful. Even its regeneration accelerated. Devouring guards made it stronger, significantly stronger. Demons in Demon Slayer could get stronger by eating people, but it was a gradual process. This hand demon was swelling up noticeably after each meal. Shinji wondered if it had something to do with the chakra contained in the guards. A demon with terrifying regeneration, and chakra too. Shinji felt a chill run down his spine. In the courtyard, the hand demon seemed to sense its growing power, devouring people faster and faster. It swallowed a guard whole, moaning with disgusting pleasure. So delicious. The people here are so delicious. Oh ah. Is that what they mean by intruder? Watching the guards dwindle, Shinji forced himself to calm down. Normal attacks had little effect on demons. You had to target their weaknesses. These fearless guards could shoot, slash, and blow up the hand demon all they wanted, but they couldn't kill it. And by eating them, the hand demon was replenishing its energy. Fortunately, Shinji knew the weaknesses of demons from Demon Slayer. The biggest weakness was sunlight. In normal circumstances, even the strongest demon would be destroyed by exposure to the sun. Another weakness was their necks. Cutting off a demon's head with a sun sword was the most common way the Demon Slayer Corps eliminated them. And they were also afraid of wisteria, but Shinji had neither a sun sword nor wisteria. He checked the time again. It was just past midnight, hours before sunrise. What to do? Shinji's head ached. He turned his attention back to the courtyard. Based on the guard's attire and the explosive tags, this was probably somewhere in the ninja world, maybe a daimyo's palace. The guard's bravery against the hand demon supported that idea, and based on the fight, the hand demon was strong. Not that the guards weren't putting up a fight. They'd hacked off its arm a dozen times, even shattered half its body once, but these wounds, which would kill a normal creature, did nothing to the demon. Meanwhile, the hand demon was growing stronger by devouring the guards. In a short amount of time, it had grown significantly and lumbered like a moving mountain of meat. Why are the people here so fragrant? Ah. Gulu gulu is so sweet. As it slaughtered, the hand demon made a chilling chewing sound. Damn, what kind of monster is this? Reinforcements, where are you? Don't eat me. The guard's resistance weakened, *his star. As the hand demon devoured the last guard, Shinji's expression hardened, even its movements made a rumbling sound, shaking the ground. Buildings in its path crumbled like tofu. Now, it seemed to be staring at the main hall, dragging its bloated body. It lumbered toward it. Shinji in the side hall felt a sliver of hope. Looks like it hasn't spotted me yet. Swish. Just as Shinji relaxed, an arm shot out from the hand demon's back, a gust of foul wind preceding it. It smashed through the wall and grabbed Shinji. What? Before he could react, Shinji was caught. The arm retracted, yanking Shinji through the air and bringing him face to face with the hand demon. Oh, I smelled you a while ago. You smell better than them, much better. You make my mouth water. The hand demon stared at Shinji, drool dripping from its mouth. Shinji felt sick. Suddenly, the hand demon seemed to sense something. Its face twisted even more. So you're the light of this world. Don't drive me away. Light? Seeing the hand demon's reaction, Shinji realized something about his identity. Countless arms flailed around, making the demon look even more insane. It grabbed Shinji, lifting him above its bloody mouth. If I eat you, I can stay here forever. This place will be my heaven. Heaven? Shinji spat. You've got the wrong idea about the ninja world. This is hell. Before he could finish, his eyes turned scarlet. Chapter 5 I Quit. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Boom. With that roar, a yellow specter shot out from Shinji's body, instantly obliterating the hand ghost's grip and morphing into a colossal, skeletal phantom. Standing beneath this spectral guardian amid the settling dust, Shinji seemed like a god incarnate. His crimson eyes swirled with a complex kaleidoscope pattern of 3 intertwined ink circles, and his entire being radiated murderous intent. The hand ghost recoiled. What in the world are you? Before it could finish, Shinji unleashed the Susanoo, bringing it down on the hand ghost in a devastating punch. *splat. The hand ghost's seemingly solid form crumbled before the Susanoo's might. It exploded into a shower of gore and flesh, scattering across the courtyard. The already blood-soaked ground became even more of a mess, but within seconds, the pulverized remains began to writhe, rapidly expanding until the hand ghost stood restored. Figures, the hand ghost chuckled, covering its mouth. You can't kill me. You just can't. TCH. Shinji wasted no time, commanding the Susanoo to strike again. Predictably, the hand ghost was once more reduced to pieces. However, this time Shinji didn't allow the creature to fully regenerate. He hammered it again and again as its flesh tried to pull itself together. Boom. 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 The Susanoo's relentless assault deepened the crater, creating fissures that snaked outward for dozens of yards. Buildings crumbled, and even a section of the distant main hall collapsed. Finally, Shinji ceased his attack. The hand ghost's regeneration had become significantly faster, but it had still shrunk considerably compared to its size after consuming all those guards. Damn it, the weakness now flooding its form wiped away the earlier madness. Deep fear took its place. It had never anticipated facing such a monster. The mere sight of Shinji's Sharingan was enough to send shivers down its non-existent spine. It desperately wanted to flee and consume more people to replenish its strength, but the Susanoo blocked its path. With trembling hands, it instinctively stumbled backward. No. You don't even have a blade. There's no way I can die here. Shinji advanced slowly. You still don't understand what this place is, do you? Soon, you'll be wishing for the sun and the sun will blade. He knows my weakness. I'm going to die. The hand ghost's pupils constricted, its mind consumed by terror. Its will shattered. Seizing the moment, Shinji struck, directing the Susanoo to deliver one final, devastating blow. Boom. The hand ghost's body exploded, but this time, the remains did not twitch or reform. Instead, they turned to ash and dissipated into the air. Invasion successfully blocked. The rift closes. Hearing the voice in his head, Shinji sighed in relief and collapsed, the Susanoo fading with him. Why am I, a leftover Uchiha, stuck with guarding the ninja world? That he was starting to get the picture. The invasion must refer to the arrival of alien entities like the Hand Ghost into the ninja world, and the light the Hand Ghost had mentioned must be responsible for destroying these interdimensional invaders and keeping the ninja world safe. Understanding didn't make him any happier, though. He'd been unceremoniously dumped into this mess and forced to fight monsters. If he hadn't had the Mangekyo Sharingan, he would have ended up as Hand Ghost Chow. Alright, fine. I did my part. But I'm done. I quit. That even though he didn't know if the mysterious voice could hear him, Shinji shouted anyway, scan to loot. Analyzing the loot. Trophy, breathing technique, water breathing. Suddenly, a shimmering orb of light appeared where the Hand Ghost had turned to ash. Hey, there's loot. Shinji moved toward it. Breathing techniques used by demon slayers, enhance the heart and lungs through focused breathing, boosting speed and strength to extraordinary levels. This allowed ordinary humans to combat demons. Since it relied purely on breathing, there was no genetic or lineage barrier to learning. With enough talent and effort, anyone could benefit from these techniques to some degree. The extent of that benefit varied from person to person. Even without complex chakra manipulation, this technique would definitely be useful to Shinji. He reached out and grabbed the light. Instantly, fragments of memories regarding the water-breathing technique flooded his mind. He understood now why the water-breathing technique was the reward for defeating the Hand Ghost. Apparently, the Hand Ghost had consumed over a dozen swordsmen who had mastered water-breathing, and their fragmented memories had been absorbed into its flesh. Reward settlement in progress. Rating, E. Obtain ninja gift, chakra, small amount. Flecks of light appeared around him and merged into his body. The sensation was like sinking into a hot spring. It was so pleasurable he couldn't help but cry out. A gift from the ninja world, eh? He thought. There's even a reward. The influx of chakra was nearly equal to his own reserves. It had practically doubled in a matter of seconds. Remembering the mysterious voice, he thought, hey, did you have to emphasize small amount? Getting a small amount of chakra had nearly doubled his reserves. Did that mean his normal chakra level equaled a small amount? He'd also gotten an E grade, which clearly wasn't good. Looking around at the destruction, he wondered, was it because the Hand Ghost caused too much damage to the ninja world? Or did the invasion take too long? Click, star. Suddenly, there was a noise nearby. Survivors. Shinji whirled around, searching for the source. A small head poked out from the ruins of the main hall, wide eyes blinking at him. Crap. Shinji's heart leaped. His Mangekyo Sharingan was exposed. If that secret got out, neither Danzo in the village nor Orochimaru outside it would leave him alone. Even villages and organizations with no current interest in him would hunt him for the Mangekyo Sharingan. This was bad news. He started toward the hall. As he approached, the small, dust-covered figure looked familiar. Those violet eyes. He realized. Is that Zun? Zun tilted her head. Red-eyed big brother, do you know me? So this is the palace of the Shrine Maiden of the Ghost Country. Shinji thought. His mind raced. Chapter 6 Shinji's Kaleidoscope Pupil Art. You are listening at novelfull.audio. From Cheyenne's surprised look, Shinji knew she'd seen his fight with the Hand Ghost, which meant, his Susanoo was out in the open, and the secret of his Mangekyo Sharingan was blown. Cheyenne, oblivious to Shinji's inner turmoil, just stared at him with obvious admiration. Should I silence her? Shinji was torn. Whoa. As if sensing Shinji's murderous intent, the little bell hanging on Cheyenne's chest suddenly blazed with light. What the? Feeling threatened, Shinji stepped back. He knew the deal with the Ghost Country's priestesses. The bell on Cheyenne's chest was a seriously powerful magical item, seemingly protecting her. Its real function was to seal her priestess power, stopping her from accidentally hurting people with it. Basically, it was a restraint disguised as a bodyguard. To kill Cheyenne, he'd have to destroy the bell first, and then face the unsealed Ghost Country maiden. Shinji scrapped the idea of silencing her. Sure, Cheyenne was a rookie maiden now, but he was a rookie ninja himself. He wasn't sure his Susanoo could block Cheyenne's sealing techniques. Ghost country priestesses could seal-tailed beast-level monsters, but letting it go was also a problem, so he thought of a genjutsu. Focusing on Cheyenne, he activated his Mangekyo Sharingan and planted a suggestion in her mind: "You didn't see me." Instantly, Cheyenne's expression blanked, and she repeated slowly, "I didn't see it. I didn't see it." "Did it work?" Shinji watched her for a moment, then breathed a sigh of relief. Luckily, Cheyenne's priestess powers were sealed, and their encounter had been brief. Otherwise, planting that suggestion with his half-baked Mangekyo Sharingan genjutsu would have been tough. Even so, he wasn't totally in the clear. If they met again, there was a good chance Cheyenne would remember. But as a ghost country maiden, she wouldn't leave the country easily, so the odds of them meeting anytime soon were slim. Just then, a fire lit up the night in the distance. A large group was coming, torches in hand, rushing toward the palace. Reinforcements from the ghost country guards. As Shinji worried about getting back to Konoha, his figure vanished with a whoosh. Finding himself in his familiar room, Shinji realized he was back. The wall clock showed about 10 minutes had passed, exactly the time he'd spent witnessing the hand ghost's rampage and taking it down. He teleported to the ghost country palace, right where the hand ghosts had invaded, and then instantly back, kind of like the flying thunder god technique. Ugh! A sudden, sharp pain shot through both eyes. Shinji endured it, quickly deactivating his Mangekyo Sharingan as his crimson eyes faded back to black. After a while, the stinging subsided. He exhaled, his face pale. He'd gotten a gift from the ninja world for stopping the invasion. His chakra reserves almost doubled, but chakra was chakra, and Mangekyo Sharingan power was something else. To put it simply, chakra came from combining physical and mental energy, and could be replenished with rest. It was renewable. Mangekyo Sharingan power was super high quality in-release chakra. Its total amount was fixed when the Mangekyo Sharingan awakened, and it had to be used sparingly, until he could convert regular chakra into high-quality in-release chakra. His Mangekyo Sharingan power was non-renewable. Opening Susanoo this time took too much. If I keep doing that, my Mangekyo Sharingan will be useless. In that life-or-death moment, he hadn't thought about the cost when he activated Susanoo. The sharp pain in his eyes had driven home the fact that his Mangekyo Sharingan was a limited resource. Rubbing his forehead, Shinji sat on the bed. This time, the invader was a demon from Demon Slayer, so there was a good chance it would be a demon again next time. But he wasn't a demon expert. He'd used a brute force method to kill the hand ghost after smashing it with Susanoo the first time. He'd noticed through his Mangekyo Sharingan that the regenerated hand ghost was smaller. He'd figured out that while demons could regenerate, they needed to consume flesh and blood to do it. If he inflicted enough damage quickly enough, without giving the demon a chance to feed, it would run out of power and stop regenerating. That worked for a lumbering hand ghost, but not necessarily for other demons. If he faced a fast, tactically smart demon next time, he'd have trouble repeating that victory. I need to find a way to truly restrain demons. Chopping their heads off with a Nichiren blade would be the easiest way, but Shinji wasn't sure if the ninja world even had the special or needed to forge one. He'd never seen wisteria flowers in Konoha. As for sunlight, demons obviously didn't invade during the day. If demons are afraid of sunlight, would Amaterasu, the flame of the sun, work on them? Shinji thought of the Mangekyo Sharingan technique. Amaterasu's black flames supposedly burned anything and never went out. Even if it didn't have the specific restraining effect of a Nichiren blade, it could still be used to stick to the demon and burn it into nothingness. Unfortunately, Shinji's Mangekyo Sharingan didn't have Amaterasu. He scratched his head, thinking about his Mangekyo Sharingan technique. His left and right eyes had the same technique, called Susa Zun Lamp. As the name suggested, it was a technique built on Susanoo. To activate Susa Zun Lamp, he had to activate Susanoo first. Unlike common ninjutsu and genjutsu techniques like Amaterasu and Tsukimi, Susa Zun Lamp was a relatively rare functional technique. When Susanoo and Susa Zun Lamp were activated at the same time, Shinji Susanoo would get a second set of empty eye sockets, ready to hold another pair of eyes. Yep. Susa Zun Lamp let his Susanoo control a second pair of eyes. In a way, This technique was a spiritual reflection of the blend between Shinji and the original Sharingan owner. Shinji thought this technique had potential, he just didn't have a second pair of eyes to control. Right now, his Mangekyo Sharingan was a blank slate, and the only technique he could use was Susanoo. Compared to single-eye techniques like Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi, Susanoo took a much bigger toll on his body and consumed way more Sharingan power. If he used Susanoo in every fight, he'd be burned out in no time. Shinji sorted his thoughts and came up with a plan. There were options. The simplest way was to find a close relative's Mangekyo Sharingan and evolve his own into an eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. At the very least, he needed to get his hands on a second pair of Mangekyo Sharingan that his Susa-Zune lamp could control, so he could actually use the technique. Following that train of thought, he calculated how many Mangekyo Sharingan pairs were in the ninja world. Not counting mine, there should be 4. Obito's Mangekyo, one on Obito himself, and one on Kakashi, Shirsue's Mangekyo, one taken by Danzo, and the other collected by Itachi's Mangekyo, on himself. Those 3 pairs were all held by strong ninjas. With Shinji's current power, forget about it, the only one he had a chance with was the pair belonging to the late Uchiha clan leader, Fugaku Uchiha. He had a chance mainly because Fugaku never revealed he had a Mangekyo Sharingan before he died, so, even though the village had confiscated Fugaku's Sharingan, they probably didn't know they were Mangekyo. That meant those eyes wouldn't be guarded too closely. After all, Shinji had seen the medical team removing Sharingan from Uchiha corpses and putting them in jars. With so many Sharingan collected at once, their value would inevitably decrease, so, among the 4 Mangekyo pairs, Fugaku's were the easiest to get, and the ones Shinji had the best chance of taking. But first, I need to find out where the village has sealed the Sharingan. It was urgent, but Shinji knew he couldn't rush it. He had to plan for the long term, because one wrong move could cost him everything. Plus, improving his body ninjutsu as soon as possible was still a top priority. As he thought, he grew sleepy. After the battle, exhaustion hit him hard. Author's note about a new book asking for support removed. Chapter 7. I didn't expect it to be successful. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Early that morning, a knock on the door woke Shinji. He yawned, opened the door, and saw Bai standing there. "What's up?" he asked. Bai smiled. "You're going to be late, Shinji." "Huh?" Shinji glanced at the clock on the wall. It was almost 8. He quickly splashed some water on his face and rushed out. At the Ninja Academy, he realized he'd forgotten his lunch again. Bai pulled a bento box from his bag. "Don't worry, I made you one. I hope you like it." Shinji opened the box. Inside were sushi, meatballs, fresh fish, and veggies. Bai had obviously put a lot of care into it. "Thanks," Shinji said. Bai waved a hand dismissively. "We're classmates, no problem." Shinji nodded, accepting the kindness. He knew Bai was naturally kind, but he couldn't shake the feeling that Bai was being overly nice, almost like he was trying to get close. The morning's lecture ended quickly. After lunch, Shinji headed to the training grounds with the other students. It was free practice time, so the area buzzed with students from all grades. Naruto, a grade below him, sat alone on a swing, looking bummed because he couldn't seem to fit in. In another corner, Neji stood rigidly in front of a wooden post, drenched in sweat as he practiced his gentle fist technique. Lee ran around the grounds with his usual enthusiasm. Time to find a place to train, Shinji thought. He went to a secluded grove on the school grounds. Remembering what he could from the original owner's memories, he decided to start with the great fireball technique, which the original Shinji had practiced countless times. Siwation Haiwuin star. He focused his chakra, precisely performed the hand seals, and aimed at a large tree. Boom. Star. A massive fireball erupted from his mouth, blasting towards the tree and igniting both it and the surrounding grass. Shinji just stood there, stunned, watching the flames rise. In his memory, the original Shinji had attempted this technique countless times without success. He hadn't expected anything this time either, just wanted to practice the seals. But it worked on the first try, and it was powerful. The fire was spreading rapidly to the surrounding trees, engulfing a large area. asterisk swish, 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 star, ninja school teachers rushed into the grove. They'd seen the smoke and flames and hurried over, their faces went pale at the sight of the fire. Earth style, earth wall technique. Water style, water whip technique. Point two teachers exchanged a look and simultaneously launched their ninjutsu. One used earth style to block the flames, and the other used water style to try and extinguish the blaze. After much effort, the fire was finally put out. The teachers looked around at the smoke and ash, visibly shaken. Irika approached Shinji. "Did you do this, Shinji?" Shinji had no choice but to nod. "This was reckless." Irika scolded. "You can't just use advanced fire-style ninjutsu in the woods like that. I didn't think it would actually work." Shinji mumbled to himself. If he'd known it would cause such a commotion, he wouldn't have tried it at the ninja school. And wasn't this supposed to be a C-rank jutsu, Chunin level? How did he pull it off on the first try? What was so difficult about it? Mizuki smiled. "Irika, don't be too hard on him. No real damage was done, after all." The other teachers had mixed reactions. Seeing an 8-year-old pull off such a powerful fire-style jutsu made them think about just how terrifying the Uchiha clan's talent was. Students from the training grounds had also gathered and now surrounded the grove. "Whoa, what happened? A fire? Those trees are completely charred," the students chattered as they stared at the ruined grove. When they learned that Shinji was responsible, many looked at him with surprise. Shikamaru sighed. "Just as you'd expect from an Uchiha." Sakura and Ino exchanged excited glances. "Wow, that upperclassman is so cool." Lee looked awestruck. "Amazing." Niji's face was grim, his eyes filled with apprehension. At 7 or 8 years old, most Ninja Academy students hadn't even begun to learn ninjutsu, and very few had mastered any. Seeing Shinji easily perform a C-rank fire-style jutsu that was supposed to require Chunin-level skill made him feel an inexplicable threat. "What's going on? What are you all looking at?" Naruto grumbled and tried to push his way through the crowd but was repeatedly pushed back. Shinji sighed, feeling overwhelmed. Back in class, Bai turned to him. "Shinji, I didn't realize you'd mastered such a powerful fire-style technique." Shinji shrugged. "It's just a C-rank jutsu." He was partly trying to maintain the Uchiha clan's image, but honestly, he wasn't that proud of himself this time. Itachi had learned the great fireball technique immediately after watching his father perform the hand seals, without even opening his Sharingan. Sasuke was nearly as good. He had awakened his Mangekyo Sharingan and received a gift from the ninja world the night before, doubling his chakra reserves and surpassing most of his peers, so, mastering a C-rank fire-style technique. Wasn't that impressive? All things considered, ninjutsu was essentially manipulating chakra. With enough chakra and strong control, one could perform ninjutsu with a single hand seal, or even without any seals at all. Shinji glanced at Bai, remembering how Bai had mastered single-handed seals at a young age, surprising even Kakashi. He quickly realized he'd underestimated the impact of this event. By the end of the school day, the news had spread everywhere. Many students looked at him with newfound admiration, especially the girls, who were practically starry-eyed. Even some of the teachers at the academy treated him with more respect. There was a precedent for this. Shusui Uchiha was a legend, and Itachi Uchiha was more recent. Both had made a name for themselves while still at the Ninja Academy, advanced quickly after graduation, and quickly surpassed the teachers who taught them. Shinji sighed. "This is a headache." Chapter 8 Solicitation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The bell rang, signaling the end of morning theory class. Students filed out. Shinji skipped Shiro's lunch invitation and headed alone with his bento to a secluded grove in the ninja school. He'd learned his lesson yesterday. No more ninjutsu practice inside the school. He'd focus on the water breathing technique. It was a discreet exercise. Unless someone was constantly watching with the Byakugan, he wouldn't be discovered. While eating, he reviewed the memories of swordsmen who'd mastered water breathing. Suddenly, someone entered the grove. "Who's there?" Shinji demanded. A figure stood in the shadows. "Not bad, you're vigilant." Shinji's expression didn't change, but he was shocked to see Shimura Danzo, the very man who orchestrated the Uchiha massacre. Danzo stared, his gaze aggressive. Talent's not enough for revenge. Who are you? Shinji asked, feigning hostility. Danzo stepped into the sunlight, revealing his dark face. I'm an elder advisor. Becoming my subordinate is your only chance to avenge yourself. Danzo wants to use my desire for revenge on Itachi to trick me into joining Root. Shinji thought, finding the situation absurd. This guy has no shame. He caused the Uchiha's destruction and now he wants the victim to work for him. First, use Itachi to destroy the Uchiha clan, then use me, an Uchiha survivor, to take down Itachi. Nice try, suppressing his disgust, Shinji said, I don't need anyone's help. I'll kill him myself. Those who reject me don't end well, Danzo sneered before turning to leave. Shinji watched him go. Being targeted by this creep is disgusting. But he probably wouldn't dare to move against me out in the open. Shinji knew Danzo and the third Hokage had a delicate relationship. Danzo was part of the village's power structure, a key tool for the third Hokage to control Konoha. Even powerful Uchiha like Shisui and Itachi, or even Orochimaru or Tsukumo Hatake couldn't beat Danzo within the village. Shinji looked away and resumed eating. Danzo might not act openly, but Shinji needed to get stronger as soon as possible. Finishing his lunch, he cleared his mind and started trying to practice water breathing. This breathing was about developing the body's potential. Water breathing was one of the 5 basic techniques. While not as powerful as sun breathing or moon breathing, it could significantly improve the body. In Demon Slayer, ordinary swordsmen relied on basic breathing techniques to fight regenerating demons. Because he had memories of over a dozen water-breathing swordsmen, Shinji had a natural affinity for it. After trying a few breathing patterns from the memories, he got a sense of it. Feeling the rhythm of his breath, he sensed his heart and lungs starting to resonate, but it wasn't like normal breathing. Almost immediately, his lungs felt stuffy, his heartbeat quickened, and the rhythm fell apart. Stopping, Shinji was relieved. The swordsman's memories suggested it usually took a month to barely sense the rhythm. Even the most talented, Sato, took days, and he felt it on his first try. Of course, he had the training experience of a dozen swordsmen, like having simulated the entry level of water breathing dozens of times, but mastering the rhythm was just the first step. The key was developing the body's functions. Skills only made it easier to start, not shortcut the training. If the heart and lungs couldn't keep up, he'd feel chest tightness. Like now, looks like mastering the fully concentrated, constant breathing will take time. All my organs need to keep up with the rhythm. Shinji now had a goal. Time flew by. 2 weeks passed. The weird invasion hadn't happened again, easing Shinji's worries, but he remained vigilant and worked hard to improve. After rejecting Danzo, he finally agreed to partner with Bai for training. Gymnastics, or any physical training, was impossible without a partner. Bai was a classmate and neighbor, so practicing together wouldn't raise suspicion. Of course, they couldn't repeat the incident that almost burned down the school. With Bai's help, his physical skills improved rapidly. In 2 weeks, he reached the average level of his peers. At least his weaknesses wouldn't be obvious. Bai was understanding and didn't question his poor foundation. Instead, he thoughtfully developed various exercise plans. A strong foundation was vital for physical improvement. The stronger the foundation, the higher the potential. Shinji worked hard to build his. Meanwhile, Sasuke finally woke up in the hospital after more than 20 days. At first, he refused to believe the Uchiha clan's destruction. He wandered alone through the empty Uchiha district. Then, in the rain, he stumbled away, dazed. Why? He walked like a puppet, his expression blank. His world had collapsed in one night. He'd gone from the son of the clan leader to a helpless orphan. Even worse, the culprit was his own brother. He couldn't accept it. The cheerful Sasuke vanished, replaced by a gloomy and withdrawn boy. Shinji watched him from a distance when he learned that Sasuke wasn't in his apartment building, but one near the ANBU headquarters. He became even more discreet. Sasuke was being watched, understandable. Before defecting, Itachi had warned the third Hokage and Danzo that if anything happened to Sasuke, he'd leak Konoha's secrets to other villages. No one dared to underestimate Itachi, not even the third Hokage. To appease or contain Itachi, the village had to monitor and protect Sasuke. Knowing this, Shinji stayed away. He even pretended to dislike Sasuke, keeping his distance to avoid attention. Chapter 9 Chunin Exam. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bang! Fists and feet blurred together, then the two broke apart. They were in a secluded training ground, Shinji and Shiro, practicing their moves. Shinji frowned, his attack foiled again. He felt himself improving with each spar, but no matter what he did, Shiro always seemed just out of reach, like victory was one extra push away, and every time, he was knocked back. Let's try the breathing technique, Shinji said, determination hardening his gaze. Heads up, I'm going all out this time. Shiro nodded, face serious. Full focus. He exhaled. Shinji's figure blurred as he threw a straight punch at Shiro's face. Shiro's eyes widened slightly, surprised by Shinji's sudden burst of speed. Bang, bang, bang. They exchanged 4 or 5 punches in a flash. Each time Shinji punched, he exhaled a misty breath. Every move seemed timed perfectly, his speed and strength amplified compared to before. Shiro looked unsettled, showing a rare hint of worry. He exhaled again. Shinji's speed ratcheted up. He circled behind Shiro, then launched a sweeping kick. But as his leg swept toward Shiro, Shiro jumped, evading Shinji's kick. Then, he lightly tapped Shinji's sweeping leg with his toes, using the momentum to send Shinji stumbling backward. What? Shinji was caught off guard. He had no time to adjust, so he threw up his arms to protect himself. Bang! With a thud, Shinji was knocked back again, his breathing rhythm broken. He felt a slight numbness in his arm. Shinji grimaced. Shiro, your leg felt weak. Were you holding back? Shiro panted. Shinji, just blocking your attacks is hard enough. I'm not messing around. Shinji shook his arm to shake off the lingering pain. You totally were. Shiro didn't argue. Instead, he walked to the side and handed Shinji a water bottle. Here, let's take a break. Shinji took the water and drank silently. He knew Shiro was keenly aware of his physical limits, subtly easing the intensity and calling for a break to save him face reliving the fight. Shinji knew the breathing technique gave him a serious boost. Without it, his attacks wouldn't even register with Shiro, but with it, even in this half-baked state after only 2 weeks of practice, he could at least give Shiro a little trouble. Still not good with the water breathing. I lose the rhythm too easily. Shinji replayed the events in his mind. Shiro drank and asked casually, Shinji, if you don't mind my asking, you're already really strong. Why train so hard? I wish I could tell you I'm doing this to protect the ninja world. Shinji thought. But would you even believe that who knows what kind of threat will show up next time? He couldn't afford to slack off. Seeing Shinji's silence, Shiro asked carefully, is it because of him? Why he would do something like that? Shinji glanced at Shiro, then looked away. I don't know. Of course, Shiro meant Itachi Uchiha and the massacre of his entire clan. It wasn't surprising he was asking. Everyone in the village was wondering the same thing. No one could understand why Itachi Uchiha, the young patriarch, would slaughter his own family, but Shinji had a hunch Shiro cared a lot about him and the Uchiha clan, though he hid it well. The next day. What? The Chunin exams? Shinji was surprised. Iruka-sensei stood at the podium, explaining all the special rules about the Chunin exams. Basically, younger students like Shinji got a vacation. The words Chunin exam made Shinji flash back to the exam in Naruto, but Chunin exams actually happened every 3 years, and they came in different sizes. Naruto's was huge. Usually, they were smaller and the location changed too. Any village allied with Konoha could host the exam. Awesome. Vacation. I heard villages from everywhere are sending people this time. Should be a good show. The students were stoked, like the village was about to throw a big party and the Chunin exam was a lot like a festival. Regular villagers could even buy tickets to watch the final fights. After school, Shinji and Shiro strolled down the street. Suddenly, there was a commotion in the distance. Shinji followed the noise and saw a procession coming toward them, a fancy carriage in the middle. Shiro looked over. Looks like the symbol of the ghost country. Are the shrine maidens from the ghost country competing in this exam? Shinji's face froze. The ghost country which? Shiro nodded. Yup. The person in the carriage is probably the shrine maiden from the ghost country. Why is she in Konoha? Could my illusion be broken? Shinji, suddenly anxious, looked toward the ghost country team. Are they headed to the Hokage building? Noticing Shinji looked troubled, Shiro asked, what's wrong? You okay? Shinji shook his head and left the street. He knew Shien's being in Konoha wasn't normal, but he couldn't act on it. This was the heart of Konoha, just blocks from the Hokage building. Anything he did could blow up in his face. All he could do was pray that Shien hadn't broken through his mental suggestion. Shinji was tense all day. No Umbu showed up to check on him. No rumors about him or the Mangekyo Sharingan spread. It was like the ghost country which showing up didn't change a thing. And later that day, teams from the Sand Village, Kusanagi Village, Rain Village, Waterfall Village, and Mist Village all arrived. Shinji's head was spinning. As far as he knew, Konoha and the Mist Village were beefing, and the Mist Village never sent anyone to the Chunin exams, and all these other villages were sending more people than usual. This Chunin exam is just a cover, Shinji thought. These villages are here to see if the rumors about the Uchiha clan being wiped out are true. The Uchiha clan was a rich family that had been around for close to 1,000 years. A ninja family that was already on top of the world before the ninja villages even existed. So the news of them getting wiped out was huge news in the ninja world. That evening, Shinji didn't slack off. He dragged Shiro out to keep practicing, taking a break to wipe the sweat off. He asked casually, why would the ghost country send people to the Chunin exams? Do they even have a ninja village? Shiro shook his head. Never heard of one in the ghost country. So what's the shrine maiden from the ghost country doing here? Shiro smiled. Not sure. But I heard the shrine maiden spent the day in the village, checking out all the shops. Right. Shinji nodded, thinking, Russell, something moved in the bushes. Shinji and Shiro turned. Someone stepped out. She was small, wearing fancy clothes, cheeks bulging like she was chewing something, and holding a bunch of tricolor dango. Shinji was shocked. He recognized her. The person stumbling out of the bushes wasn't just anyone, it was the ghost country which he had just been talking about. Shien didn't seem to expect anyone to be in such a remote spot. She gave Shinji and Shiro a shushing gesture, then tried to sneak away, but after a couple of steps, she stopped, tilted her head, ran up to Shinji, and stared. You gotta get those votes and support. End of this chapter. Chapter 10 Firework Festival. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Shinji's heart leaped. He hadn't expected to run into Shien like this. Ziyuan tilted her head. Man, I really want to know you, but why can't I remember? We haven't met, Shinji replied. Ha. Ziyuan frowned, trying hard to recall. Shinji kept a straight face, though he felt a flicker of panic inside. He was still a little unsure about how well his illusion was working. Seeing Shien staring intently at Shinji, Shiro looked back and forth between the two of them, curious. Your Highness, where are you? Just then, guard shouts echoed from nearby. Hey kid, get out of the way. Seeing the guards were closing in, Ziyuan didn't hesitate. She shoved Shinji aside and took off running. Shinji's mouth twitched. You used to call me Big Brother, now it's Kid. This girl, soon, a few ghost country guards, laden with bags, burst into view, sweating buckets. They peppered Shinji and Shiro with questions about Shien's direction, apologized, and charged off, yelling as they went. Watching them go, Shiro smiled. Turns out that priestess from the ghost country is quite the handful. Shinji breathed a sigh of relief. That little scene caught him off guard, but it confirmed that the psychological suggestion he'd planted in Ziyuan with his Sharingan was still in effect. So, Ziyuan probably came to Konoha just for protection. After all, back when the priestess was attacked in the original timeline, the ghost country asked Konoha for backup right away. now that the hand ghosts invaded and slaughtered hundreds of ghost country guards in one night, it made sense for them to send the young priestess to Konoha to get her out of harm's way. Plane invasion detected. Countdown, 3 days. Out of nowhere, that familiar voice rang in Shinji's head. He glanced at Shiro beside him, but Shiro clearly hadn't heard anything. Seeing Shinji staring, Shiro asked, "Keep practicing?" "Nah, let's head back." Shinji shook his head. Back in his apartment, door shut, his face darkened. This invasion was happening in just 3 days. A knot of unease twisted in his stomach. The next day, Konoha was buzzing. Teams from other villages taking part in the Chunin exams were rolling in. Even on his day off, Shinji wasn't slacking. He was going through his gymnastics routine with Shiro at the training grounds. During a break, Shiro smiled and said, "The lady at the dumpling shop downstairs told me that the priestess we saw yesterday ditched her guards again this morning. She's wandering around the village, playing hooky from the ghost country's embassy." "Huh." Shinji replied casually. But to himself, he vowed to steer clear of Zun, avoid running into her again. Shiro continued, "I heard there might be a fireworks festival tonight." "Fireworks festival?" "Yeah, seems like it's to welcome the ninjas from the other villages who came for the Chunin exams." Shiro paused, then asked, "The kids in class are getting together for a barbecue and fireworks tonight. You in, Shinji?" Shinji shrugged, "I'll pass." Shiro said, "Then I won't go either." That night, boom, 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 Shinji, leaning against his window, watched the fireworks explode in the night sky, his face blank. If you looked closer, you'd see his eyes were unfocused. He wasn't really enjoying the display. He was miles away. Next door, Shiro was also staring at the night sky, but his expression was grim, like he wasn't seeing fireworks at all. Suddenly, his gaze locked onto one unremarkable firework high above, and his face tightened. He sighed, trudged to his closet, and changed his clothes. Across the village, Sasuke sat alone by the small lake near his apartment, legs crossed. He wasn't watching the sky. He was staring at the fireworks reflecting on the water. His mood was the polar opposite of the vibrant show on the lake. All this excitement just made him feel empty. Then, the reflections in the water twisted, turned into the face he hated most. "I'm going to kill you." That without thinking, he snatched his kunai and plunged into the lake with a splash, shattering the calm surface. Back in his apartment, breaking in would be too risky. Shinji shook his head, banished the thought. No matter how desperately he wanted Fugaku's Sharingan, he couldn't risk breaking into the Umbu building. That would be insane. But how to deal with this invasion? Now that was a problem. Can't just use Susanoo all the time. And why's the countdown so short this time? Shinji was sweating bullets. Click. Next door, the soft sound of a door closing. If a firework hadn't exploded at the same moment, he might have missed it. So late, and Shiro's going out. Shinji frowned, but he shrugged it off. With all the commotion outside, it made sense to want to take a walk, but then, he frowned again. After the faint click of the door, there were no normal footsteps. Shinji held his breath, crept to his door, and listened, barely hearing Shiro's quiet steps heading downstairs. Sneaking around. What's he up to? After thinking it over, Shinji decided to follow him, but he overestimated his tracking skills. He lost Shiro's trail in a heartbeat, only catching a glimpse of him disappearing into the bustling street. He's meeting someone. And he's being careful. The other person must be someone sensitive. Shinji was running through possibilities as he walked. Shiro being in Konoha, and his curious questions about Shinji and the Uchiha clan, already felt suspicious. Now, with what just happened, Shinji was almost certain something was up with Shiro. He just couldn't figure out who Shiro was working for. Was it someone high up in the village? Or a spy carefully planted by another village? Passing a small stall, Shinji stopped short. A dazzling array of masks hung on display. He remembered the first time he dealt with the invasion, he was accidentally spotted by Cheyenne. So, he walked over and bought a pair of fox masks, similar to the Umbu style. Learn from mistakes. Next time there was an invasion, He'd need a disguise. With the mask tied around his waist, he kept walking. Without realizing it, he'd wandered to the training grounds in the woods, the place where he usually practiced with Shiro. Bang, star, overhead, fireworks were still bursting from time to time. Well, might as well use the time to practice my water breathing for a bit. Swish, star. Suddenly, he heard two wind-splitting sounds nearby. Shinji froze and ducked into the bushes. Then, two figures, one running, one chasing, landed in the training grounds. Even wearing a mask, Shinji recognized Shiro, the one who just slipped off into the night. And the one chasing him was an Umbu ninja from the village. The Umbu ninja glared at the masked Shiro and sneered, "Humph. Thought I was just tailing the kid next door, but looks like I landed a big one. You're not getting away now." New book release. Please vote and support me with monthly tickets.